Thanks for watching Lessons in Minutes with Jaylee. Like, share, and don't forget to subscribe.
Okay, so we are here because you are broadening your knowledge on accounting. Today, we're going to take a quick look, just a look at balance sheet, and I'll be just looking at an introduction to the balance sheet. Now, at the end of a lesson, you should be able to explain the layout of a balance sheet. I'm going to begin by looking at the definition of a balance sheet. What is a balance sheet? A balance sheet is simply a financial statement. It shows the assets of a business in relation to its liabilities and capital at a particular time. What do I mean by a particular time? I mean the financial period of the business. Different businesses carry different financial periods. Some are annually, some are every 6 months, some are quarterly. Okay? Now, we're going to look at the components of the balance sheet and bear in mind the definition of the balance sheet as we look at the components. Here we go with the components of the balance sheet. We have assets, we have liabilities, and we have capital. So these are the components of the balance sheet. And if you think about the definition, you'll realize that the balance sheet shows the assets in relation to its capital and liabilities. So those are the components of the balance sheet. Now, what is the format of the balance sheet? There are basically two formats. We have the horizontal format and we have the vertical format. But what is the difference between the two? The horizontal format represents the accounting equation, assets equal to capital plus liabilities. For this format, you have a left-hand side and you have a right-hand side. On your left-hand side, you list your assets. And of course, it can be done simply or you classify them. If you classify them, you're basically doing a classified balance sheet. Classifying meaning you categorize your assets. You list them in terms of fixed assets and current assets. And over on your right-hand side, you would have your capital and your liabilities. Again, if it is a classified balance sheet, you're going to categorize your liabilities in terms of current liabilities and long-term liabilities. Now let's talk about the vertical balance sheet. The vertical balance sheet represents assets minus liabilities equal to capital. Now, with this balance sheet, you would list your fixed assets, then your current assets. You would then subtract your current liabilities from your current assets, and that will give you working capital. Having done that, you will then add your working capital to your fixed assets. And having done that, when you get to that stage, you will subtract your long-term liabilities, if there is any, basically, and then you get your net assets. And then you would have your capital section. Now, once you're finished with that, once you have your capital section, then you would notice that if you're accurate, your assets minus liabilities would be equal to your capital. Back to the horizontal format. When you total your assets, which are on the left-hand side, you total your capital and liabilities on the right-hand side. Both totals should be equal to each other. Basically, your total on the left should be the same as your total on the right. Now you will get a practical demonstration of that in our next lesson on balance sheet. So that's it basically for the format until we get to a practical demonstration, which will be done in our next lesson. We are going to take a look at the layout of the balance sheet. Now, in terms of the layout, I'm talking about the balance sheet must carry a heading, right? Now, the heading for the balance sheet must state the following: the name of the business or its proprietor. So once you're doing a question, you pick up the name of the business or its proprietor. If you get both, then you use the name of the business. Or a question will just have the name of the business, you use that. Or it may just have the proprietor's name, the owner's name. So you would use the owner's name. Next, we have the words balance sheet, because yes, you have to indicate what you are preparing, and you're preparing a balance sheet Following the words balance sheet, you will then have the date to indicate when it is made up, the date of the balance sheet. So let us look at an example of a heading. Here we go. The name of the business, Rich Enterprises, balance sheet as at the date, which is the 31st of March 2021. So that is when the balance sheet is made up, basically. Let's talk more about the layout of the balance sheet. So let's talk more about layout. The balance sheet carries, as indicated earlier, fixed assets. It also has current assets, because remember, assets are components of the balance sheet. But in doing your balance sheet, you'll be doing a classified balance sheet, basically. So you have to categorize the items into fixed assets and current assets. But there are some rules that you must follow. When you are listing your fixed assets, they are listed in order of permanence, starting with those that the business will keep the longest down to the assets with the shortest life expectancy. While for the current assets, those are listed starting with the asset that is least likely to be turned into cash, finishing with the most liquid asset. So you need to know that cash is the most liquid asset. Okay, so that basically takes us to the end of this short lesson on the introduction of a balance sheet. We will look at working simple balance sheet in simple classified balance sheet in our next lesson. I will be looking at horizontal format, and there will be other lesson with the vertical format, but both will not be in the same lesson. Okay, until then, take care.
Like, share, and don't forget to subscribe.